I was sitting on a leadership panel the other day and we were discussing the question, how can you demonstrate strong leadership without having a leadership title? And it's one of my favorite topics actually in leadership to discuss because it's something that I struggled with so much when I started my career. I always viewed leadership as someone who was the captain of the football team or someone at the top of an organization. That's what I viewed as leadership. So I mainly centered it around the role. But then obviously going through my career, I started to realize that many people are demonstrating leaderships in many different ways. And so I became really curious as to how can I develop myself as a leader without necessarily having a leadership title. And so I've done a lot of research into this area. And it turns out that no, leadership is not something you're born with. And for to be a strong leader, you don't need a title. So I'll quickly go over several aspects of leadership that I think will be really useful to think about and reflect on so you can develop as a leader. The first one is leadership traits. So if we all sit down together, we think about what are the traits that we like to see in leaders. We'd say stuff like empathy, confidence, honesty, integrity, those types of traits. And they can all be developed. I can work on myself and my character and my traits, so can you. The second one is skills. So leaders have to have certain skills. And again, these skills can be built over time and demonstrated by everyone. So they're things like communicating, things like social skills, people skills, ability to build rapport with others. There are obviously specific leadership skills as well that people can work on. And again, these things you don't need a title for. You don't need a certain position to be able to build on these and use these in your day-to-day work and throughout your career. So, for example, communication is like a massive part of my personal development plan going forward because I see that as a really important area of leadership, being able to communicate clearly. The third aspect are your behaviors. And these are in relation to two main things, in relation to tasks and in relation to groups. So essentially, in our day-to-day life at work, what we're essentially doing is leading various groups across tasks. And how strongly we present as a leader will depend on how we can allocate those tasks and manage those tasks and how we can manage the group, how we can motivate them, get them to do the work and deliver the outcomes that we want. So developing your project management skills is great for allocating tasks. Working with people, understanding what motivates individuals, understanding how to build strong teams, understanding how to set work and deliver to deadlines. That's working on groups. So the behaviors that you bring to those two different aspects are going to be really crucial in how you're perceived and your ability to be a leader. And then the last aspect is how you respond or present yourself as a leader in different situations. And this is where you get more into things like leadership styles. So, I can be a strong leader in one situation, and that same approach to leadership might be quite poor in another situation. So let me give you an example. If I'm leading a team who are very expert in a certain domain or in what they do, I don't want to be too hands-on with that team or too micromanaging, because actually in that scenario, the best thing for me to do is maybe set vision and guidance and then step back and let them do their thing because they're actually expert and in many cases more expert than me. However, so that's called like delegating. But then if you were to be in another position where you are leading a new team that's been brought together and they don't really have expertise built up in a certain area, you might have to take a much more hands-on coaching approach. So giving people a lot more guidance, a lot more direction, being a lot more hands-on, you know, maybe something like a consultant in a hospital where they've got their junior staff and they're actually showing them what to do, or like an apprentice, for example, where the more senior person is showing them exactly what to do and giving them hands-on training. So those are 4 aspects of leadership that I think makes the conversation a lot more concrete. If you ask people what do you think is good leadership, everyone will give you different answer. But I like to bring that framework, those 4 aspects of leadership to the conversation, because I think it really helps us to understand that to be a strong leader, you don't need to have a leadership title. We can all be demonstrating it right now by building strong leadership traits, developing our leadership skills, implementing leadership behaviors, and adapting across different situations to be strong leaders.